with this video. It is 3 years to the day when I first made the video of passing the A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus in 30 days, and it has been a wonderful ride ever since then. You're probably thinking to yourself, where have you been? Because you probably watched that video and you're saying to yourself, man, he just dropped off the face of the earth and he just kind of disappeared. You're probably looking forward to me posting more, and in this video, I want to explain a couple of things. First is why I first started making videos. Second is what I have done ever since that video came out, and third is where I desire to go from here. So let's get started with it. First of all, what happened to me? Over the last 3 years, a lot of things have happened, a lot of wonderful things that I probably should have shared before this, but I have a very good reason on why I decided to delay. The first thing that happened that was great is that I've amassed over 40 certifications in that time. The second thing that has happened is that I have achieved the six-figure income. That covered the six-figure income. And the third thing is that I have held senior positions in IT. And all of this tells me that I do have a very bright future in IT. So then, you want to know, why did I stop making videos? Because it was a pretty good thing. And long story short is that I was beginning to make videos and I was put in a position where I was now talking about a subject that I didn't feel like I had enough experience in. So I wanted to gain a little bit more experience before I started talking more about it, and that's probably why I had to delay. It will make more sense if I told you exactly why I started making videos and what got me from there to here to where I want to be next. So let me explain why I first started making videos, especially that first video. You have to understand that I was going into IT, and at the time, I barely had any work experience. I mean, no real work experience. Yes, I had been in the Army at one point. Yes, I had done a little bit with this college that I was working at as they were trying to get up and running. And yes, I had done a little bit of public speaking in my life, and I was trying to be a preacher at one point in my life. But throughout all that, I never really held down a real solid job or a real solid career. As a matter of fact, before I got into IT in 2022, the last time I had received any taxable income was in the year 2018. And even that, and in 2018, I had made the most money I had ever made in my life in a year, and it was only about $25,000. So yeah, not that much. I clocked a lot of years of zeros. So now I'm going into IT 2022, no real work experience. You have to understand where I'm coming from. At that moment, I was self-studied. I had no real work history. I had no known peers around me. Like, I didn't have any coworkers. I never worked somewhere that even required me to work with Outlook or work with Teams or work with any type of logging into a Windows system. I had no mentors. I had no network. I had no teachers. On YouTube, I had all of 8 subscribers. On LinkedIn, I had 11 connections. I didn't know where to turn. So I turned on the camera and I kind of spoke out into the abyss, into the great internet, hoping that there was somebody out there that would be able to see the video and say, you know what? I'm going to help that young man get a career. Even though, I wasn't exactly young. And I'm also still not young. But young in my career, whatever. I was not that young, but I wanted someone to watch that video, anybody, and to be able to help me in my career. I had no clue that it was going to blow up the way that it did. I had no clue that people were going to hit the subscribe button. I had no clue that people were going to actually want me to make more videos. I really just expected it to be seen by a couple of people, and hopefully that was going to be enough to get me in the position to get some sort of job, or at least somebody would know about me, or maybe I'll be able to build a network. But it has done more for me than I had ever set out to do. But it also did one other thing. It put me in a position that I wasn't comfortable in. It put me in the position to kind of speak authoritatively about something that I had no experience with, or at least no cognitive experience with. Yes, I had passed the certs, and then yes, I had done a few things, and yes, things were working for me, but I had no clue why things were working. And here I was, a few days into my career, and I'm speaking on a subject that I'm not all the way aware of. And yes, there are naysayers, and I want to go through what they were talking about. And yes, there were objectives, and I want to go through those objectives. But on the grand scheme of things, it was just that I wasn't all the way comfortable talking authoritatively about something that I had no experience in. I wasn't going to do that again. And by again, what I mean is when you go back to 2018, during the times when I was failing and becoming a preacher, and I wanted to do better with myself, and I realized, like, in order to be a preacher, I had to be better at public speaking. So I thought the reason why I wasn't making it as a preacher was because I wasn't a good public speaker. I had joined the Toastmasters Club, and from the first day of the Toastmasters Club, they let me know that I was a great speaker. So with that, I decided to see what can happen as I was going to pursue now being a public speaker. And one of the places that it took me was in contract training with some organizations. Now, this is back in 2018, and back then I had a couple of gigs. On the most part, I spoke about communication in the corporate workplace and with project management. Now, mind you, I had never worked in a corporate workplace. I had never worked on projects, but here I was being asked to do that simply because I was decent at speaking. I remember this one time specifically down in Virginia where there's this one company that asked me to come in and do a workshop, a 2-day workshop on agile project management. At that time, I had never once worked on a project. At the time, I didn't even know what agile was, but they wanted me to come and do a presentation on it, having no experience with it. And there I was, I sat in that room with all the other people, some of them executives, one of them being a C-level person, other people being vice presidents, other people being directors, all because they wanted to take their company agile and they wanted me to do a training on it. They didn't know that I had no experience doing this. And you're probably wondering, how did it go? Well, to be honest, it went marvelous. The reviews were wonderful. People said it was great. But what was the problem? The problem was me. I wasn't comfortable being able to speak authoritatively on something I had no experience with. So fast forward now from that moment to 2022, and I felt like I was repeating it once again. Here I was, new to IT. And yes, it would have been okay. As I honestly believe that if you take a poll of everyone in the world that would have seen an issue with me doing videos, not even actually having that much experience in it, you probably would find only one person that would say, nah, he shouldn't. And that person was me. But the reality is that I wasn't comfortable doing it. I wanted to be able to come from a place of experience where I knew what I was talking about, where I felt like it wasn't just a fluke, that I wasn't just lucky, but I knew what I was saying and what I was portraying to other people came from a place of knowledge rather than just chance. Not that anybody would have had a problem with it. I mean, you guys probably would have really enjoyed me talking about my experience and the way up with it. So not only that, but there were some objections. Some of them I gleaned from like reading Reddit posts. Some of them I had inside of me. Some of them were what people had talked to me. But there were objections nonetheless. So here's what I said. I said to myself, if I can conquer these objections, if I can reject all of these objections and make it to 3 years in this field, then I'll start making videos again. Now, in the last 3 years, a lot of people have wondered, when am I going to make another video? When am I going to come back? Well, here's that moment. I've almost made it to 3 years. And as a result, I'm keeping true to myself. I thought it fit to make this drop on this day, the exact day from 3 years ago, to give the update. Now you're probably wondering, what are these objections? There were more, but here are the top 10 objections that I came across as I was building into this, and the ways that my experience and life itself has stood in contradiction of these objections. Number one, you've got the certs. Let's see if you can land a job. Well, yes, I didn't end up landing a job. As a matter of fact, it took me 34 days after passing the Security Plus to sign an offer letter for $65,000. So yeah, I made it. I got the job. The second objection came right after that. Nice, you got a job, but it's only a matter of time before your inexperience shows and things start going south. Now, this objection kind of hit me because I was scared of being found out. I was scared that someone found out that a 34-year-old man had never used Outlook before in his life. And here he is trying to work in technology. I was scared that someone's going to find out that me, at that point, working in IT, had never seen Windows from all the way in 2006 to 2022. I was scared that somebody was going to find me out. So I was scared, when especially after I first heard this, that I was going to go in there, my inexperience was going to show, and then people were going to feel like, this isn't going to work out. So what ended up happening? Within 6 weeks, The first 6 weeks, I got my first promotion and my first raise from $65,000 to $72,000. Now remember, I hadn't made a single penny for the last 4 years of my life. And before that, the most I had made was $25,000. And before that, there were only 2 years I had made any money in my life. So $72,000 felt rich to me. So with that objection went away. The higher-ups were taking notice. They were realizing my work in this, and they wanted to see me move forward. And by the way, that was the first of 5 promotions. The third objection, well, they're just CompTIA certs. You couldn't do that with a real cert like the CCNA. And I hear this a lot because, CompTIA certs, they are made more for the entry level or, I'm just going to make a video on what I really think about CompTIA certs. But the objection did come that they were just simple, basic level certifications, so it's not really that big a deal. And yes, people did say you couldn't do that with a real certification like the CCNA. So then what happened? I did. 20 days experience in my new job, I sat for the CCNA. I spent 12 whole days studying. I even made a video about it. And I passed. Not only did I pass it once, a couple years go by, and just a few months ago, I passed it again. I need to renew it, and instead of finding other ways to renew it, I want to know that I had it. So I took 3 more days, studied for the CCNA, took the test, passed it once again. A second time. I know this for real. So it's not just the certs. It's not just CompTIA. I was able to do it. Not just with that one, but with many others, including the GenSia, AZ-104, AWS Solutions Architect, Associate. Lots of them, actually. So then, the next objection came in. Like, okay, you did the certs. Could you land a job? Yes, I can. You got the job, but is it going to go south from here? No, it's not. I got promoted. Well, they're just CompTIA certs. You couldn't deal with the real cert like the CCNA. Well, I did. Well, those are just multiple choice exams. This is the fourth objection. Those are just multiple choice exams. Clearly, you've got a good memory. You can read and regurgitate, but, those aren't really hands-on exams. Hands-on exams, those are the real thing. What's going to happen with those? Well, here's what happened. I took the RHCSA. First time, I passed it. And that is a hands-on certification. Pretty much what I'm trying to say is like any objection that came my way, the life I was living just as is was standing in contradiction to it. So that's the fourth one. And of course, after that, the next objection that kind of came up with me was, well, any cert doesn't really mean anything because real life is more than any cert can give you. So then, what would I do with that? How would I meet that objection? Because part of it is true, though. Real life isn't exactly like what certifications are. So what did I do? I built an amazing home infrastructure and a home lab. You see, I don't know if it's exactly harder because here's what happened. With the certs, I had to actually drag myself to want to study for it. And that was hard, just like getting myself into it. But when it came to building my home lab, man, you didn't have to drag me for that. It did take a lot more out of me. It took a lot more rest out of me. I didn't even want to procrastinate. All I wanted to do was build that lab, and I did. Kind of hard to say I don't have the hands-on experience given how much I've actually built. So then, what happens next? Then the next objection comes in. Number 6, home labs don't mean that you have any experience in a real environment. And all I got to say to that is, yeah, it can actually. Because there's not that much different. Well, first of all, once you get enough experience, you realize that no 2 environments are identical. You have environments on one side, you have environments on others, and they're all going to be different across the board. Now, your home environment is not going to be the same as some corporate environments, but the reality is that doesn't matter because it's just a different environment. The truth of the matter is once you get more experience, you realize that no 2 environments are the same. So saying that home doesn't really count as real stuff is kind of asinine because that's like saying, well, working in one place doesn't count for another. Yeah, it does. It's all experience. The next one that I got, the next objection I got, number 7. Well, he works in GovTech, and that's easier than the real world. And I heard this, and I kind of took it in a little bit, but then I did end up working in the real world. 1 year and 10 months after I got my first job, I was able to move to another job, and this is in 2024 when it's supposed to be hard to get a job, and this was in the private sector. At that time, I also accepted my first six-figure offer of 101,500. So there it is, a year and 10 months later, private sector, and then I did pretty well in that. So it's not just that it was GovTech and it was easier and not much was expected of me. I was able to do this in the private sector as well. And then that brings me to the next one, where people would say, well, you got in at a good time when things were easy, like the job market has changed now. You see, that's not necessarily true. Because back in 2022, I even made a video about it where the layoffs had just begun at that time. And what was happening is that they had hiring freezes back then, and 2022 was where the difficulties had began. So it's not necessarily true that I got in at a good time. It just so happened that this worked for me. And that brings me to the ninth objection, where someone would say, but it's still harder now because people spend months laid off. And I really do feel bad for people that spend months laid off. And I really want to do something to help the people that are going through that. And part of that is also because I too have been through that where I've been laid off. But here's my layoff experience. And here's where I was able to kind of beat that objection as well about things being different nowadays. So, yeah, I got laid off. The day that I got laid off was the 31st of January, 2025. That was the date. Now you're probably wondering, how long did I spend being laid off? I spent less than a day. Because on that same day that I got laid off, I got 2 job offers. I accepted one of them, and the job that I accepted was for $132,000. So there it is. I'm still under 3 years now. That's 2.5 years in. I do experience getting laid off, being a part of this hard job market, and still, I'm able to move forward in it. That let me know that this was not just a fluke, that I'm doing something right here. Finally, the final objection, yeah, he may do well at entry level or junior roles, but when he starts moving up, he's going to struggle. Well, the truth of the matter is, it didn't take me long to start holding senior roles. I've been a senior network engineer. I've been a deputy lead engineer. I've been the interim lead sysadmin, and I've been a senior systems engineer. I've held many positions in my short career. And yes, my time in this field might be short, but my experience is robust, albeit compressed. What that told me was that what I had gone through in this field is not a fluke. I'm not here by accident. I actually have put in the work necessary to move forward with this. And while there are objections to me being able to be in this field, my experience itself has stood in contradiction to every last one of those objections, to the point that I can now comfortably say I can speak to these things out of a place of experience, and not just because I'm good at speaking. So now you're probably wondering, what do I want to do from here? Well, I told myself, if I can make it 3 years in this field, no matter what, just make it 3 years. Doesn't matter what the position. Doesn't matter if I stayed at entry level or not. If I had made it 3 years, I would start making videos again and being able to share my opinions on things as they are in this field. Hopefully being able to help people out there. Well, it hasn't been 3 years exactly yet, but what I can say is that every objection within that time has been answered and accounted for. And therefore, I feel comfortable being able to share what I believe I have. So now, moving forward, what can you expect out of me? I am going to be making a lot more videos. Hopefully, they're going to be a lot better quality than this one. Hopefully, I'll be in better shape. Anyway, some of the subjects that I'm going to talk about are things like how do you study and prepare for certifications versus how do you study for just regular life and to be able to build your skills. I'm going to give a lot of my opinions on certifications, meaning like how I see CompTIA, where they fit in, or like, you know, what type of certifications would you want for anything really? Like, why would you even want to go for it? And also how I make my decisions on what certifications I'm going to take. I want to put together a whole series on how you can build a home lab, because I think I've become pretty good at that one, and also in a way that doesn't have to cost a lot of money. I might put a little something on like putting together presentations, because I think that's something that a lot of us can work on. And typically at work, I get a lot of feedback on the presentations and the meetings that I run, and it seems like people have a lot of good things to say about them, and I probably want to share with other people. I I want to share some of the job search ideas that I have. As a matter of fact, I'll let you look into just one of them. For example, like how people complain about when you go to apply for a job and ask you to input all the stuff that was already in your resume and it seems annoying. Well, the reality is you should use that to your advantage. Here's what I do. Once I see that they ask for anything that's already on my resume, like my job history, they want me to fill that out manually, I immediately go and delete that from my resume and replace that with some other things that can sell me even more. So it can be things like testimonials from coworkers, instead of references, because testimonies sound better. My top 5 favorite projects, ways that I can put things together for this company, any link to other projects. But what I do is that I use that space on my resume to talk about more things, since my job experience or my work history is already in another part of the application. Now, what that does is that the recruiter or the hiring manager is able to see both my job experience, and instead of reading it twice, they get to read it one time and get to know more about me. Here's something else that I will put on some resumes: a frequently asked questions section. And all it is that you're answering some of the more common interview questions. Certain things that they are going to ask, and you can put that in an FAQ section, showing that you have an answer, and then with that, you list the experience that you have that correlates with that. So part of the answer will be like, if they ask a network engineering question, you can say, here's a common question, let's say something simple between TCP and UDP. You can then answer that and say, while working as a network engineer at certain place, here's what I found about this. And then you go ahead and you give your answer. Just like that, you're able to answer the question that is a common interview question, give some of your experience, and speak articulately about it. And kind of like, you just wedge yourself into a little mini interview where they may want to hear more about you from there. So that's what I got for now, what I want to do from here. I'll also make any video about whatever you want to put in the comment section, because with that, it can give me ideas on what I have. If there's any part of this that interests you, let me know what that is, and I'll expound deeper. But for now, I want to let you know that over the last 3 years, I haven't been sitting on my hands. What I have been doing is proving to myself that this is a real field for me, and that I am true to this, and that I'm not just good at taking tests, but I am good for this field, I'm good in this field, and I'm good for where I'm headed in this field. Not only that, but I hope that I can do a little bit of good for everyone that is going to be able to watch this video. I wish you the best in everything that you do. And as we move this world forward in technology, I look forward to working with you, whether I know you or not, because we are teammates in all of this.